Today, I'm going to tell you why you need to pay attention to UEFA Conference League qualifying. You heard me right. UEFA Conference League qualifying. Yep. You guys know me, I am a sucker for chaos when it comes to this sport. Every single day I'm looking at some football apps, searching random tournaments for a crazy match. I am addicted to these entertaining stories and fan bases, which makes sense considering the football club I actually support has made me get into a random stranger's car promising to drive me to a match. Was this an Uber? A Lyft? A taxi? Nope, just a random guy with an Arsenal kit, which is apparently good enough for me. Now, league stories are all well and good for that type of chaos, and no one appreciates the craziness of the Belgian Pro League like I do, but typically you have to wait until the end of the season for something to unfold. It's during these club knockout tournaments where pandemonium can ensue, and what club knockout tournaments are happening in Europe right now? UEFA competition qualifying. So far, 2 rounds have been completed and the third is being played out right now, so you can obviously see some exciting matches in all levels of the tournament. The top 2 levels, the Champions League and the Europa League, saw a total of 6 matches that had an 85th minute winner or later, went to extra time, or went to penalties. The Conference League, on the other hand, had 18 matches with one of those things happening. You want to know why they had so many matches like that? It's because they had 74 qualifying matches in the first 2 rounds. You could throw a random dart with your eyes closed, and chances are it would land in a random cow pasture with 2 semi-pro teams giving us the match of the season in front of 26 fans with just a chance to be playing Chelsea. So that's exactly where we're heading first. The home stadium of Marsaxlokk FC, playing in Malta. Yeah, Malta. Now, the first round tie that we're talking about was between the aforementioned Malta club, Marsaxlokk FC, and the Albanian club, Partizani. It was an equal level fight in the first leg, which left both teams level going into the second leg. And since the Maltan league was higher in the UEFA coefficients than the Albanian league, something that I just, know off the top of my head and did not have to look up, Marsaxlokk seemed to be the favorite, I guess. Who really knows? After a scoreless first half, the home side took the lead in the match, and on aggregate, after a stunning strike off the crossbar left the goalkeeper stranded. However, with the crowd still celebrating and a band that makes me reminiscent of my high school days still playing in the background, the away side drew level to make it 2-2 on aggregate. Look at the raucous celebrations here. Someone needs to get this man in order. Now, at this point, I want to make it clear to everyone that you can still have high quality play at this level, because near the 52nd minute, we see a miss that's as good as Lukaku's. Amazing stuff. But on a serious note, you can honestly still see some great plays, including this nice roulette and ball roll that led to a 93rd minute winner to advance Partizani 3-2 on aggregate. Now look, I'm not going to spend the entire video showing highlights from the qualifying round of the Conference League, even though, as I mentioned before, there are so many other matches we could look at. Like the match between Floortalen and Virtus Aquaviva, where the home club scored 3 goals in extra time to win 5-2 on aggregate, despite being a man down. Or Punic scoring a 96th minute winner in front of their home fans, or a thrilling 12-goal aggregate tie that ended in penalties. Again, I could talk about all of these matches, but I won't. But I could. But I won't. But rather, I want to talk about what I think are the 2 biggest stories from the qualifying round thus far, starting with the tie between Austria Wien and the Finnish side Ilves. The reason why I want to discuss this tie is because Ilves managed to upset one of the most historic clubs in Austria. Now, I understand that saying one of the more historic clubs in Austria may not seem like a big deal to some, but it's important to remember that the Austrian league has been producing some very good young talent in recent years, and typically has some mainstays in the UEFA competitions such as Sturm Graz, LASK, Rapid Wien, that stupid energy drink club, and, as mentioned before, Austria Wien. In terms of Austria Wien's success in their domestic competitions, they have won more titles than any other Austrian club in the top flight, with 51 total trophies. They even managed to make the Champions League semi-final back in 1979. Now compare this to Ilves, who has only won their domestic league one time back in 1983 and has never made it to the proper group stage in any UEFA competition. In fact, they are currently in the third qualifying round, which is the furthest that they have ever gone. So just to reiterate, a club with virtually zero European experience beat a team who were former semi-finalists in the Champions League. And they did it in dramatic fashion. Ilves unfortunately blew their 1-goal lead from the first leg pretty early with 2 quick strikes from the Austrian club. But just like the Lynx that they're named after, they had no quit in them. Equalizing on 2 separate occasions, one in the 30th and one in the 90th minute, meant that this tie was going to extra time, and there, they somehow drew level for a 3rd time in the 112th minute to send the game to penalties, where Ilves held their nerve, kept their cool, and slotted home every penalty to go the furthest in a European competition than they ever have before. Now, I'm sure you're thinking that that is a tough story to beat. You have a major upset that happened after coming back 3 different times and ended in a shootout. Is it even possible to have a crazier story than that? The answer is yes, obviously, that's why this video is still going. And it involves a team named Bruno's Magpies. With a name like that, you'd think that it was a pub team located in and based off of Newcastle, created by some random sleazy dude named Bruno. Yeah, believe it or not, about 80% of that statement is actually correct. While they aren't located in Newcastle, and I couldn't find anything about a specific Bruno being involved with the naming, Bruno's Magpies are a semi-pro team in Gibraltar, with their name based off of the Premier League club, and they were founded by friends who drank at a pub named Bruno's. Now, while I could make an entire video about this amazing club, I already said that we would just briefly talk about it, so let's do that. Let's talk about the fact that they not only managed to participate in a UEFA competition, but advanced to the next round after beating Derry City on aggregate. Derry City, if you couldn't tell by the name, is based in Ireland. Now, they aren't exactly the strongest country in terms of their UEFA coefficient, being ranked 33rd, but that's certainly higher than their Gibraltar counterpart, who's ranked 2nd to last, only above the lovable losers from San Marino. These rankings should tell you how wild of a story this is, with a fully professional team filled with players who have played for their country, at least at the youth level, being beaten by a former taxi driver. You know how we like to say that a club lost to plumbers after a major upset? That's basically what happened here. Now, the first leg alone could have been a huge story, with Bruno's Magpies winning 2-0 at home. 2 set pieces with good deliveries and catching the defense sleeping, the Magpies were able to capitalize and take a lead into Derry. In the second leg, it was a completely different story in terms of momentum, however, as Derry City looked to attack early and often, taking a deserved 1-0 lead. But shortly after, a player who was on a yellow card thought he was an Olympic diver and went to ground. The ref was clearly not a fan of the technique on display, gave the record a 2 out of 10 for his dive, and the player was so distraught that he actually left the match. But despite being a man down, Derry City still managed to equalize late on and send the game into extra time. However, while in extra time, a wonderfully hit ball left the keeper scrambling for Derry City, and when it hit the woodwork, a Magpies attacker was able to pounce on it and score the eventual winner. So a semi-pro pub team managed to beat fully fledged professionals. What was their reward? Playing against the most successful club in Denmark, FC Copenhagen. Unfortunately for the Magpies, it was there that they ended up losing 8-1 on aggregate, but at the very least, they managed to score in the second leg and were technically winning in the match. Now, I know for most people, especially those that only support clubs that win trophies, that this does not seem that important or that impressive, but I've said this over and over, and I'll repeat it one more time. A semi-professional team full of people with other jobs that was created just over a decade ago in a pub managed to beat a professional club in a UEFA competition. Now, this video was not made to prove that the Conference League is the best thing ever, or to convince you to watch every Conference League game. In fact, with well over 200 matches before the actual group stage, I don't think that's actually possible. But rather, this is just another reminder to keep your eye out for cool stories around the footballing world. Yes, the Champions League and the top 5 domestic leagues have great headlines, but if that's all you're focused on, you'll miss out on some really unique stories. Because let's be real, the Champions League is not going to bring you a rip-roaring tie between clubs from Kazakhstan and Luxembourg.